So, as you've clicked on this video, I know one or two things about you. One, you're interested in quitting your job. Why else would you be watching a video about it? And two, you might be looking into becoming a high ticket closer, or you've potentially already started, but you're not sure how to balance it with your full-time job, or you're not sure how to get started. So that's exactly what I'm gonna break down and show you how to do. I've worked with countless 9-to-5ers, corporate sales professionals, and a lot of full-time employees that have had success entering into the high ticket sales space, replacing their day job incomes, quitting their day jobs, and scaling past that 6-figure a year mark, taking sales calls from their laptop from anywhere in the world. Now, if you're watching this video, I'm gonna assume you already know what a high ticket closer is, how lucrative it can be, and how it can allow you to scale to a 10K a month income in a matter of months. So let's cut the formalities and jump straight to the juicy stuff. And if you did want to learn what a high ticket closer is, you can go to my channel and check out a bunch of other videos. But before I jump into things, it's very easy to play the comparison game and see the guys and girls with all the time in the world that pour 10-hour days into training, learning, and landing lucrative roles out the gate and scaling to that magical 10K a month mark in just a matter of months. You know, I've worked with guys that have done this. Eamon, for example, surpassed 10K a month in under 90 days with no sales experience at all, but he put every waking minute of the day into making that happen. And it's super impressive, but you must remember that you and Eamon are not the same. You probably have a full-time job. You can't just quit tomorrow. You've likely got bills, rent, a mortgage, a family support, and no real safety net or savings that means you can just pack it all in, pack the day job in, and give, you know, this your all for a few months until things really work out. And I understand and can empathize with you because honestly, there's no guarantee that things will work out. Why would you take such a risk, especially when you're comparing yourself to those that don't have the same time and financial commitments as you, and you see them getting success so much quicker? Why would you even try? And it's this very comparison that is stopping you in the first place, as the only thing you should truly focus on is bettering your own personal circumstances. That be financial, time, or location, whatever is most important to you. And just know that sure, because you have less time to dedicate to it, chances are it may take you a little bit longer. But if you knew that you were just 3 to 4 months away, call it even, let's just say it's even a year away from changing the whole trajectory of your life, and all it took was an extra 3 to 4 hours a day of work, would you do it? Chances are it's a yes. I know I would, and I did. I juggled university, a job at Red Bull, and started my own businesses, and it took me over 2 years to find any success. And I now know I could have done that so much faster with the advice I'm about to share with you. However, if you're not willing to put in that time and really work at creating your dream life by sacrificing the short term, then this video really isn't for you. So with that in mind, and the sole focus on bettering your own personal circumstances, let's jump into the how with 3 simple steps. Now, the first thing you need to do is you need to learn the skill. This is your bread and butter, and it's ultimately the thing that's gonna make you a lot of money. And I use an extreme example here to really emphasize this point. You would not go to war unless you knew how to fight. You know, you need to apply the same principle here, and it's a common mistake I see a lot of people entering into the industry make. They learn about the space, they see that you can have a lot of success in it, you can make a lot of money in it, and they start wildly applying for jobs without really taking the time to understand the fundamentals of sales, how to run a sales call, or even how to close. A month goes by, they don't land a role, and they start thinking like, what gives? Why isn't this working? The whole industry is a scam, and you know, high ticket closing, it's not even real. Well, that simply just isn't true. You know, you haven't even tried yet. You know, I don't know you, but I know that you currently work a job, and I'm assuming you've tried hard to get. Maybe you went to university first, maybe you did an apprenticeship, maybe you've been climbing the corporate ladder for years. And in doing all of this, you've been learning how to do the role, how to get better at the role, so you can, you know, get that promotion and make more money. And you've probably been at it years. So the first thing you need to do if you're entering into the remote sales world is learn. And it's by simply learning for a couple months, will you be able to upskill yourself to the point where you can earn 6 figures a year in a very short time period. Unlike your current role, where your efforts and hard work might go to waste, and it only gets you like a 5% pay rise with each promotion. In this industry, you have the ability to go from making 0 to making tens of thousands a month in a matter of months, which is great. You know, most industries or roles do not opt for that kind of growth, which is what I love about remote sales, and which you should too. But don't be fooled into thinking it's going to happen without putting in the hours and making sure your closing and your sales ability is to a high standard. And with most of these roles being commission only, even if you blag yourself a role, the chance of you making any money and closing any sales might be slim. So your number one priority above all else is learning the craft, honing in the skill, and making sure when you do start applying for roles, you can hit the ground running. And look, I know a lot of you might already be in 9-5 sales roles already, which is great. You probably have a really decent foundation and your learning curve might be shorter and faster. But for those of you that don't have any sales background, don't worry, you can still achieve the same result. It might just take you a little bit longer. Remember, we're not comparing. So taking this time to really lock in those sales skills is critical. It's your foundation, and the bigger and stronger of a foundation you build at the start, the higher your chances of success are in the long run. So assuming you've taken time to learn the skill of sales and you're confident you can close some deals, it's time to start looking for a role. Now, I haven't forgotten that you've got a full-time job, so how are you going to balance both? Well, the beauty of working remotely and being a high-ticket closer is that you can leverage time zones. And there are arguably hundreds of thousands of businesses that hire remote sales reps worldwide. And because your location doesn't matter, you can work for any of them. Let's say, for example, you're based in the UK working a 9-5. You can reach out and apply to high ticket closing roles for US based companies and start taking calls for them at around 6 p.m. UK time, which would be 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. And you can get a solid 4 to 6 hours of calls booked into your calendar after you finish your day job. The same applies if you're based in the US. Depending on the time zone, you could work for a European company and start work super early for them before you head to the day job that you're trying to escape. And one thing I'll add here too, with most of the roles I've seen in the space, you're simply hired as a contractor or a freelancer. You don't have to worry about employment contracts, work visas, or all the other complications that come if you were to go and physically work for a company in another country. You simply invoice the company you work for at the end of the month, and they'll pay you out your commission check to wherever your bank account is based. And I know what you might be thinking. Is working 4 to 6 hours and taking 4 to 6 calls a day enough? Will someone actually hire me to do that? Wouldn't they rather someone that can commit all the time in the world to the role? And will I actually be able to make enough money in the role? I'm going to jump into the numbers shortly, but frankly, of course, they'd rather hire someone that's calendar can be open at all hours of the day. But linking back to my previous point, they'd much rather hire someone that is super capable of selling and will actually close deals, as opposed to someone that's just got their calendar open 12 hours a day. You've just got to make sure that you are the person that is super capable of selling, and you will perform and you will close the calls that you do take, which is why learning and refining the skill is super important first. And it's very common in the industry that the top closers won't jump ship and move to a new role right away. They'll likely straddle two for a period of time, keeping their current role that they're performing well at, and work for a new role for a few hours of the day to get comfortable and make sure for themselves that that new role is actually better and they can make more money than the existing role before switching all their calendar hours over to it, which is very similar to what you're going to be doing at the start here. The only difference is that your current role is the 9-to-5. And I want to remind you that as a closer, you are a core asset to the business. How you perform will directly impact how well the business does. If you have a closing rate of 20%, which means you close 20% of the calls you take, but you're able to increase it to 30%, that's a 50% increase. A closer with a 30% close rate versus a closer with a 20% close rate makes the business 50% more money, which has a huge impact. I know I'd much rather hire a closer that consistently closes above 30%, that can only take 6 calls a day, versus one that does 20% but might be able to take way more calls. So providing you can train yourself to be a top performer and you can illustrate that on interviews, business owners will begin to try and sell themselves on you working for them and be more flexible in making it work for you in the short term. I've personally hired closers, cold callers, and appointment setters that I really wanted on my team, but they were already on other offers or had other jobs or time commitments. And because I saw that they were high performers, I was flexible in making it work for them so that eventually they came and joined me full time. So your focus once you dialed in your sales skills is to prove that you are a high performer to a business owner and leverage time zones to make sure that the role will work for you. So to put it bluntly, in the short term, you're going to be working your 9-5 and you're going to be closing on the side too. You might be working 13, 14 hours a day at the start. And I know that sounds like a lot. You know, it'll probably be quite exhausting, and there's a chance you're gonna have to sacrifice a few things, maybe going to the gym, spending time with friends, and you're likely gonna be working on the weekends too. But I want you to remember why you're doing this. The goal for you right now is to get out of that day job ASAP. And I won't fool you into thinking that it won't come without some sacrifice. There's probably gonna be a period of 1 to 3 months where all you're doing is working. And that might suck for the short term, but it's not forever. You're gonna be in this transitional period where you're moving away from a job and a life trajectory that you ultimately don't like and into one that you do, and one that has so much more upside for you. But you need to be willing to sacrifice yourself in the short term in order to achieve that. And if you're not willing to put in the work now, you simply do not deserve the future life you could have if you did. And I'm not saying you have to suffer, but you're likely gonna have to work harder for a period. Because if you want to achieve more out of life, you're gonna have to put more hours into making it happen. And providing you do that, your future will become so much more lucrative. So your goal right now, as much as you want to be making the 10, 20, 30K a month, and they will come, is simply to replace your 9 to 5 income so that you can quit and pour all your energy and attention into closing and scaling to those numbers. You know, I don't know your exact income, but when you do find a role, you just want to make sure that with that role, replacing your income is actually possible. And you can do that by simply reverse engineering the numbers. So let's say you take 4 calls after your 9 to 5, and I'll keep these numbers super reservative for the time being. If you take 4 calls a day, that's gonna work out at 80 calls a month, not factoring in weekends. But if you do want to replace your income as fast as possible, I would suggest you work weekends too. And let's assume that you're selling a $3,000 product. And if you're just starting out, let's say your closing rate is only 20%. So of these 80 calls you take, you close 20% of them, which is 16 sales. Of those 16 sales, you make 10% commission, which is industry standard, which is $300 per sale, giving you a grand total of $4,800 in take-home commission, which is 16 times 300, which is really not a bad number considering you're only doing this part-time. And a lot of companies also have a much higher price point, and as you improve, so will your close rate. So these numbers might be even higher, but at least it gives you a good example and you can kind of see where you need to be at if you do want to replace your income. And I've seen and worked with countless people that have picked up part-time roles like this and been out of their 9-5s in a matter of months. There's no reason why you can't do the same. And depending on what your current income is, doing these numbers for a month or 2 could be enough to replace your current income. Go full time, and then you can scale to much higher numbers with more calls, selling higher product prices, and having even more time to focus on improving your sales skills much further. And if you're really honest with yourself, you likely have the time. 4 hours a day is not a lot. It requires sacrifice, but it's very achievable for you. It really just comes down to how bad you want it. I'm not here to say it's going to be easy. It takes hard work, but if you're willing to sacrifice 3 months of your life to creating a whole better future for yourself, I promise you, it will be so worth it. And I've seen countless guys try and countless guys do it. The one key difference is that those that put in the effort get the result, and their whole life changes because of it. There's no reason why you can't do the same. So feel free to subscribe and browse all my other YouTube videos to learn more about the industry and how you can get into it. Or if you're ready to make the commitment to change that whole trajectory of your life by starting as a closer part-time, you can click the link below in this video and see if you're a good fit for my coaching program, Club Closer. I'll work with you to get you killer at sales, help you land a remote sales job, and scale you to 5-10K a month in as little as 90 days. Get after it.